Okay, so on Twitter, I came across this article that was retweeted by somebody in England. And it was from CBC. It was 2018 about Native women having been forced and coerced into sterilization at the time of their labor. So they were told that they couldn't see their babies unless they agreed to tubal litigation. That's not the right word. Anyway, and they were told it was reversible, like a whole bunch of things where they were really manipulated in a time where vulnerability is ridiculous. So I think we've all heard about forced sterilizations of Indigenous women. I really thought that this was something that was in our far dark history. I didn't think that this was something that was still going on in Canada in 2017. It took place in Saskatchewan. Apologies were made. People were supposed to be looked into or whatever. But one of the things in the article that it said was like, if this happened in Saskatoon, it happened in a lot of places. So the fact that that story just drops off and we never heard about another investigation. This didn't become front page news in Canada when the story came out in 2018.
I remember seeing it. I remember seeing the story. I remember being like, what the hell is that? I remember reading it. Yeah, I did know it was
a few why wasn't there should have been a bigger fuss, and there should have been further investigations, and this should be something that we're holding the government's feet to the fire on, especially at a time where we're finding like this 2017, you're forcibly sterilizing women in Canada. And I don't think enough Canadians, like, if you just say those words, you're like, what in the whole everything? Like, and it goes to all the things with the residential schools and everything, and even the Truth and Reconciliation, where they made recommendations. Nobody's really following through. And I'm feeling like there's a lot of lip service being going on for our Indigenous community without the support for them. So you have the Mi'kmaq in Nova Scotia still trying to fight for their treaty rights. People reporting on it are calling it so-called treaty rights or something like that. And it's like, no, there's a treaty. Like, we're doing wrongly by our people. And I'm just mad. I'm mad that I heard about it from England. And then that person said, you know, me being a Canadian woman, like, I have a better chance for that voice to be heard, which is just so sad. And it doesn't matter to me that it was a few years ago. It means that it was that recently. And we need to investigate to make sure that everywhere else, because if it was happening in Saskatoon, it was happening everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, the residential schools, I remember hearing about that, like in the 2000s. I remember screening a movie at one point, but then Harper even apologized. He didn't call it genocide in Parliament, but then it became like a shocking news story when they actually started finding the bodies. But like, I mean, yes, the bodies are probably like graves of children is definitely shocking, but the thing is, people had been saying for years that those were there, and we didn't.
I knew about the residential schools. I did hear that they said the bodies were there, but I also, we never looked intentionally, right? So I think that's the problem, and that every time a story like this comes out, I'm afraid it just gets shunted to the bottom of the pile. Somebody says, I'm sorry, and our Native women suffer.
Yeah. Well, now I think they want what was the petition you signed? It was about the UN or someone getting involved, or?
I mean, somebody has to get involved. That's the problem. I'm not sure how these things get solved. I just know that, honestly, if enough white people get mad about them, somebody looks into something. And that also makes me mad and sad that we're not listening to Indigenous people who really, if we had listened to them, our world wouldn't be on fire. But it's like we're silencing them at every turn.
Yeah. And the other story you were going to talk about is more recent.